Thank you. I'm Berks County Commissioner Christian Leinbach, and I want to welcome you to our Berks County Commissioners meeting for October the 28th. We are broadcasting live via Microsoft Teams live event and also on BCTV, as well as Facebook and YouTube Live. At this time, I'd like to recognize my executive assistant, Mary Buer.
Thank you. Public comment will be accepted in person and through the Q&A function. Please include your first name, last name, and municipality for all comments. Any comments without name and municipality will not be considered. Each citizen can submit one comment. Comment length is dictated by the limitations of the platform being used, Teams Q&A, Facebook, or YouTube. In-person comments will be accepted first, followed by comments submitted virtually. The meeting comment period is limited to a total of 30 minutes, including both in-person and virtual comments. This time period may be extended at the discretion of the board. Please be concise. Comments that are germane to county business will be read during the meeting and should not be considered to be interactive dialogue with the commissioners. The county solicitor shall be the final arbiter of whether a comment is germane and should be read. Any commissioner response to public comment will be done at the discretion of the commissioners.
Thank you, Mary. We will begin with a moment of silence followed by a pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will begin with a presentation from Brian Gottschall, our Director of the Berks County Department of Emergency Service and our COVID-19 leadership team lead on the Berks County COVID-19 data report. Brian Gottschall.
Good morning, Commissioner. We have a bunch of ground to cover this morning, even apart from the numbers. Plus, it's also our biweekly Co-County Wellness Report, so we're going to truck through this and try to get to the most important stuff as quickly as possible. Starting out, as we always do, with our testing and case count slide, we do see some good news in this slide. It appears as though...
We have a technical issue here. Okay. This happened yesterday. We cannot see your slides. So just to bear with us a second. Heather, are you trying to figure that out? I can pull up his report as well.
I'm going to stop sharing and restart and see if that helps it.
Yeah, I think that this is an issue maybe with Microsoft because this happened on a call yesterday. There it is. Okay, we're good.
Okay, so getting back to, again, our cases and testing slide showing testing over a 7-day smooth period, cases over a 14-day smooth period. As I was saying, some good news in this slide. Although we're not seeing a decline as we would hope in our cases, we have seen quite a leveling off over the last about 2 weeks. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about the fact that it appears as though we may have been hitting peak for this particular surge, and the indication over these last couple weeks is that that was the case, and hopefully we'll start to see this kind of plateau that we've seen for the last number of days begin to drop off again. But as always, more to keep the eye on, and just a renewed emphasis that this is why we really shouldn't look at one-day numbers. You know, we see in media, biggest day ever, fifth biggest day ever, lowest day in the last 6 months. One day really doesn't mean anything. We have to look at these trends. Our pediatric case data is very flat since the last reporting period. Again, this is data that is reported by DOH over the week. This is for Berks County specifically. And as you can see in both the 0 to 4 as well as the 5 to 18 categories, we've remained flat over that last 7-day period. You may note that I've removed our positivity slide. I've decided that we're not going to continue to look at that moving forward. There's such a disparity. There's such an enormous amount of antigen testing being done in our area because of our robust healthcare system that is not being counted in the state's reported numbers, that our real positivity numbers are dramatically different from the states. And I think it's just creating a lot of confusion. And when you try to compare it to other counties around the state, there are counties that are reporting 70 or 80% positivity numbers because their testing values are so low. So I just think it's losing its effectiveness in understanding what's happening with testing in our county. So we're going to skip that out in future weeks. Another change that we're going to see coming in future weeks is how we're reporting our hospital data. Just to reiterate, this is known and suspected cases in-house at our 2 Berks County-based hospitals. St. Joe's has been reporting for a number of weeks on the delta between the I shouldn't use that term, on the difference between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated persons in the hospital. We've been talking to Reading about doing that, and earlier this week, Reading began publishing on their public dashboard, which anybody can go and see on the internet. Just go into a search engine and look for Tower COVID dashboard. But Reading has begun breaking out the vaccinated and unvaccinated numbers starting this week. So I think that we're probably going to stop using these known and suspected numbers and transition next week to a known in-house with the vaccinated, unvaccinated breakout for both hospitals. Even though that's going to represent kind of a blip in our data where it looks like the numbers change dramatically from week to week, I think in the long term, being able to show the public that difference is much more valuable. Our COVID deaths continue to climb at a steady rate. Not unsurprising if you remember the dual curve graphic that we use sometimes that shows our COVID deaths as a lagging indicator of COVID cases, and we will likely continue to see deaths rise for a number of weeks after our COVID case peak in this surge. Really nothing to say here, remains unchanged from week to week with respect to how we compare to other counties in the state for vaccination numbers. Per capita, we continue to hold our own in all categories. Pennsylvania, as we mentioned about 2 weeks ago, I think, exceeded the 70% goal for those over the age of 18 to be fully vaccinated. Berks County continues to lag at about 67%, but is slowly getting to that 70% number. And when we factor into that, the individuals who have already started their vaccinations, those with at least 1 dose, looking at the raw data on the left thermometer, we see that we would be at about 81% if all of those would complete. But based on what we know about the fact that they won't all complete, we're able to statistically extrapolate that we're really at about 72% if those who have already started the series just finish it. And that is, again, those that we would expect statistically to finish it, eliminating those who we don't expect to. With respect to how we're doing since the end of May, we continue to maintain the growth lead that we have over Pennsylvania in all those categories except the 12 to 18 group. Obviously, in coming weeks, if FDA and CDC do what we think is going to happen, we're going to see some value start to generate in this under 12 category, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Getting into our Co-County Wellness Report, you can see in the last column, and again, this is a new chart that we just began using 2 weeks ago, so I do want to take a moment to make sure the public understands it. While all the graphs look the same height, they're intended to show a percentage. So you really do need to look at the numbers in each column to understand what's going on in each biweekly period. And what you can see in our last biweekly period is that there were just under 200 successful contacts investigated and just under 100 unsuccessful, for a total of just under 300 contacts. Compare that with the 2-week period prior, where we had almost 1,000 contacts. And what you see is the DOH is passing significantly less contacts through to Co-County Wellness to even be able to do their work. This is an issue that we continue to work with DOH on and try to encourage them to look at this process a little bit differently and improve their partnership with the county, because we all, including the folks at Co-County Wellness, are very confident that if we would be given the opportunity, we could do a much better job than is being done through the other processes that the state has in place. Again, recapping from 2 weeks ago, the first thing we showed you there was contacts investigated, and that is after a positive case is identified and there's a list generated of who that positive case was in contact with. Those individuals are contacts. However, the case investigation is the first step of that. That's reaching out to the individual who is positive and asking them to develop that list of contacts. And again, as you can see here, as we mentioned a couple weeks ago, the numbers of folks that are participating or cooperating with this process is significantly lower than we'd like to see. In the last 2 week period, with about 1,300 cases available, over 800, almost 850 of those were unsuccessfully investigated, which basically means that the individuals did not respond back. And even of the 425 or so that the individual responded back and Cook County talked to, when they provided them the case investigation questionnaire, less than 100 of those actually returned that questionnaire. So this is just an opportunity to reiterate to the public the importance of this process and really encourage people. It's very private. Your information is not shared with anyone, but it is important in making sure that folks that you may have been in contact with and inadvertently exposed are aware of that exposure and know to take appropriate precautions on their own. So this is where we want to get into some real meat here this week, because there have been a lot of changes over the last week. Some of this is a review, but I felt it was necessary to review it to make sure that we're giving a complete soup to nuts talk about this vaccine strategy update. As we've known for a number of weeks now, immunocompromised individuals are eligible to get a third dose of vaccine if they're 4 weeks out from their second dose of either the mRNA vaccine, so either Moderna or Pfizer. And just to reemphasize, for terminology perspective, this is not a booster dose. These people may ultimately be recommended to get a booster dose. That decision hasn't been made yet, but at this juncture, what we're calling this third dose is just that, a third dose in a normal series. Just like a person who's not immunocompromised has a 2-dose normal series, someone who is immunocompromised has a 3-dose normal series. Then for I believe 2 weeks now, we've had Pfizer available as a booster dose for those who are 6 months out from their second dose, if they're 65 and older or 18 to 64 in one of these high-risk conditions. The recent change to this is that now Moderna is also available for those booster doses 6 months out from the second dose, as well as the Johnson & Johnson vaccine recipients who are 2 months out from their first dose. So again, there's a lot of information here, a lot of moving parts. All of this is available at CDC by looking on the internet yourself if you want to look at it more closely, but we've efforted to kind of summarize it here in this single slide for you for how boosters for these 3 vaccines should work. And one other thing that we have to mention about these booster doses is this concept of mix and match. When these recommendations came out from FDA and ultimately CDC, it was determined that individuals did not need to have a booster dose of the same brand as their original vaccine series. And in fact, there's some science out there that indicates that mixing and matching the booster dose actually creates better efficacy in the vaccine. There are considerations that come along with that, though, where people may want to have a dialogue with their healthcare provider. One of the things that has me a little bit personally worried about this is that folks are going to show up to get vaccinated, and they're going to want to have that dialogue there with the person who's going to give them the injection. And obviously, that's not really appropriate. We would really encourage people to consult with their healthcare provider and get some advice if they need it from their doctor before they go for the vaccine, so they know what it is they're going to go and ask for, rather than try to have that dialogue in the vaccine center with someone who may not be equipped to have that, may not understand your medical history, all of those kind of things. So I'm not going to spend time on these slides because we've shown them for a few weeks, but again, just for completeness, I wanted to make sure we clarify what high risk is, and people can easily find this information by going to a search engine and putting in CDC COVID booster, where they'll find out information about what constitutes either living or working in high risk conditions or having underlying medical conditions. One last thing I want to mention on the strategy update, and there's been some confusion out there about what's approved, what's not approved. Earlier this week, the independent FDA advisory panel recommended the approval of Pfizer for kids age 5 to 11. That does not mean you can go and get it yet. In fact, it has not even been approved by the FDA yet. This is an independent advisory panel that makes a recommendation. The next step would be the FDA to consider that recommendation and either approve or deny it. And if the FDA approves it, then the CDC would issue it as a public health recommendation for the nation. Everything that I've read indicates that it's very likely that all of that's going to happen, and we are going to have an emergency use authorization issued for Pfizer for the 5 to 11 age group in the next week, and that will give parents an opportunity to pursue that vaccine if they desire to for their kids in that age group. So the last thing is, of course, our weekly commercial for doyourpartberks.com, where we would encourage all the folks in Berks County to go if they have questions about COVID, in particularly questions about COVID vaccine. And again, kudos to our public affairs person, Steph Weaver, who is doing yeoman work and keeping that thing up to date as things change, become more complex, and harder to find data. That's all I have, Commissioners. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Brian. I think it's appropriate to point out that yesterday, the county and Penn State St. Joe's were able to formally kick off the Berks Cares, or reopening of the Berks Cares Vaccine Center. Penn State Health St. Joe's is managing that operation. It's by appointment only. And if you want to make an appointment, you need to go to the Penn State St. Joe's website. You can find that website on the doyourpartberks.com website under the vaccine resources tab. So encourage you to get out there. My understanding is they've had, and at least initially, a very, very strong response and have scheduled out several days, I think, into next week.
Through next week. I think it's limited to about 100 a day. And yesterday when I was there, they had as many walk-ins as scheduled. So they're really strongly encouraging people to schedule because of the limited availability of not just the vaccine, but the staff, actually. They have a few people working there, so.
Just to mention, Commissioner, that is so important for the public to do the scheduling, because it really is going to help Penn State to project that public need and make sure that they're bringing in adequate personnel and vaccine to the facility. As you said, it's 100 a day now. We are already talking to them about expanding that, both as far as the number of doses as well as the brand of doses available at the clinic. Again, first day, everybody needs to get their feet under them, see what's going to happen, and make sure that it can be supported properly. Public's a big part of helping us to be able to do that by doing it in an orderly fashion and making the appointment.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Brian. We will move on with the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections for the October 21st Commissioner meeting minutes? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. We did have an executive session yesterday, October 27th, dealing with personnel and litigation. Mary, is there any public comment on specific agenda items?
No.
Under item 1, authorizing, under that, Budget Department, adopt a resolution authorizing 2021 budget transfers in the amount of $136,800 and 2021 appropriations in the amount of $47,006 per listing dated October 21st of 2021. We have several items listed under Human Resources. Item 1, authorize the appointment of Valerie Kramer to Law Clerk 1 in Court Administration. Item 2, authorize the promotion of Brooke Strausser from County Caseworker 2 to Caseworker Supervisor in Children and Youth Services. Item 3, authorize the promotion of Nicole Kaufman Jacoby from County Caseworker 2 to County Caseworker Supervisor in Children and Youth Services. Item 4, authorize the promotion of Olivia Cavello from County Caseworker 2 to County Caseworker Supervisor in Children and Youth Services. We have a few items listed under purchasing. Item A, adopt a resolution authorizing in the award of the director and contracts to execute as a result of an invitation to bid a 1-year contract for emergency bridge repair, equipment rental, material, and labor to be utilized by the Facilities Department as identified herein. That goes to Lobar Site Development Corporation out of Dillsburg, PA, Total estimated annual expenditure of $89,062.40. Item B, adopt a resolution authorizing the award and the Director of Contracts and Procurement to execute as a result of an invitation to bid a contract for the Pleasantville Covered Bridge Headache Bar Replacement Project as identified herein. This goes to Manishi Inc. in DuPont, PA. Total bid amount not to exceed $67,000. I have a question, Commissioner Barnhart. How many times have we replaced this headache bar?
I recall 3 or 4 times now.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing for people that don't know where this is, and I've been over there several times. It's well marked. It's quite large. It is a steel structure to protect oversized trucks from taking down the covered bridge. And in spite of all efforts to make it visible, let people know that it's there, trucks continue to hit it. I actually can't explain what.
The excuse is the drivers will say that my GPS sent me that way, but they weren't paying attention when they made that turn and found that there was a steel bar in front of them. They just decided to drive through it.
So what they're saying is they have an automated vehicle, so they're just kind of sitting back sleeping.
They're driving via GPS.
So hopefully their insurance continues to pay for these replacements. Sorry, Commissioner Rivera, I've seen this so many times on the agenda. Next item, 2 items under Commissioner Rivera. Item A, adopt a resolution authorizing the appointment of Ianavel Ruiz, Reading, PA, to the South Central Transit Authority BARDA Board to fill the remainder of a 5-year term, which will expire on December 31st of 2023. And item B, and we actually have this gentleman in the audience, adopt a resolution authorizing the appointment of Carl Staples, Reading, PA, to the Reading Area Community College Board of Trustees to fill the remainder of a 6-year term, which will expire on June 30th of 2025. Carl, glad to see you. For those that don't know, Carl used to be the chief administrator here at the county, and after that went to Brentwood. After that, a year ago, retired roughly from Brentwood. And then I'm assuming he was at a bar one night. He decided to run for Exeter Township Supervisor. Nothing against Exeter Township or Carl, but when he told me at a breakfast, I don't know, a month or so ago, I said, "Are you crazy?" Retirement. And then I asked, "What does your wife think?" And his wife, Jean, supports it fully. So thank you for agreeing, though, to serve on the RAC College Board of Trustees. Several items listed under the commissioners. Adopt a resolution authorizing Kevin S. Barnhart, Vice Chair, to execute PennDOT form. If you wonder why Kevin Barnhart's executing, I'm having a difficult time signing things. So even though I'm here, the contracts are being signed by Commissioner Barnhart, and thank you, Commissioner Barnhart.
Always at your service.
You're a good man, in spite of what everyone else says. Pinnacle View Bridge superstructure replacement carrying Pine Creek Road over Pine Creek in Albany Township. It's a $910,951. Item B, adopt a resolution to endorse and adopt for publication the Berks County COVID-19 Health Advisory Panel recommendations for the COVID-19 prevention and mitigation efforts in the county. This is a document drafted by the Berks County Health Advisory Panel and today being approved by the Board of Commissioners. Item C, adopt a resolution amending a prior resolution that the Berks County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the allocation of an amount up to $3 million to the Berks County Convention Center Authority as a result of the negative economic impact, lost revenue from the harmful consequences of the economic disruptions resulting from an exacerbated by the COVID-19 public health emergency. These funds will be provided upon receipt and successful review of the information provided by BCCCA of the agreement between the county and the Convention Center Authority regarding the funds and subject to final review and approval by the county solicitor's office. Item 2, a motion to authorize execution of contract agreements and amendments as set forth on the attached listing. There are a total of 8 contracts, 1 with Berksheim, 1 with Children and Youth Services, 2 with Information Systems, 2 with MDJ offices, 1 with Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities, and 1 with the Public Defender. Item 3, a motion to authorize execution of payments and electronic transfers is set forth on the Controller's Office voucher listing dated October the 28th of 2021.
Motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. With that, we'll move now to our County Treasurer, Dennis Adams, with the Treasurer's report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It looks like we have an opening balance today of $206,543,295.48. A balance to clear of $3,540,134.76, leaving us with a balance today of $203,003,180. $60.72.
Thank you very much. And we'll move now to our County Controller, Sandy Graffias, with the Controller's report.
Okay, gentlemen, we have total accounts payable of $19,056,699. We had a payroll this week, plus a supplemental of $4,375,548.02, for a grand total of $23,432,247.02.
Thank you very much, Sandy. We'll move now to our Chief Administrative Officer, Ron Seaman.
Thank you, Commissioner. The only thing I have to comment on is, again, a reminder to everyone that all absentee and mail-in ballots must be received in the Office of Election Services on the first floor of the County Services Center by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, November the 2nd. Postmarks are not acceptable, timely filing of those. In order to
And that
ensure,
is driven by the state law. We
Correct.
do not have any ability to adjust or change those dates or deadlines.
correct, in order to make absolutely certain that your ballot is received timely and will be counted, my recommendation is that they either be brought in person and or deposited in one of the drop boxes, both here at the Services Center or at the Berks County Agricultural Center. Those boxes are available from 8 to 5 today, 8 till 1 tomorrow, Saturday, and then 8 to 8 on both Monday and Tuesday of Election Day. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. We'll move now to Commissioner reports, and we'll begin with Commissioner Michael Rivera.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. Have a few things here to comment. First, I just want to comment, it may look odd that Commissioner Leinbach and I are sitting closer together and leaving Commissioner Barnhart over there. It has nothing to do with party affiliation. It just seems up to end that way at times.
Hey, I'm right where my stuff is. Now, wait a minute. Last week, I moved over there, and when the camera came up on me, it was only half of me, and I quickly moved over and went back to where the camera was. So stop picking on me. Or stop.
I just wanted to make that clear.
You know what? Next week, we're going to put him at the end.
I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you.
But on a more serious note, yesterday the Greater Reading Chamber of Alliance held the manufacturing summit and job fair at the Reading Area Community College. Great event. Had different speakers talking about innovations in manufacturing, where we're seeing manufacturing going, issues with the workforce, and so forth. And then after that, there was a job fair at the Schmidt Technology and Training Center. So I want to thank the Chamber and RAC as well for their work in supporting our local manufacturers, which is one of the key industries here in Berks County. So thank you very much. Also want to congratulate Carl Staples as the newest member of the Reading Area Community of College Board of Trustees. I've had conversations with him and he's very excited to take on this new role and share his experience. Also want to congratulate Inabel Ruiz she actually works at the Hispanic Center. And when I was looking for someone to name to the SCTA BARDA board, I was looking for someone who either was an end user or who dealt with people who are end users. And Inabel works at the Hispanic Center, deals with people day in and day out that use BARDA. So I think she will be a great addition to the board as well, because she can bring this input from end users of the system. Also yesterday, we had a meeting together with members of the City of Reading, different organizations around foreclosures and evictions, just to kind of get a hold on where we're at in reference to that, since the moratorium has ended. And we had someone from PHFA there who will, because PHFA will be administering the homeowners assistant, it's HAF, the homeowners assistant fund, I believe, is what it stands for. But basically, in a nutshell, it's larger lenders will be holding off on filing foreclosures till January. And by that point, we hope that PHFA will have their program up and running. They have a deadline of November 18th to present their program, and then it should be starting shortly after that. There will be online applications as well as local organizations that will be helping with that process. So please keep that in mind. If you are someone that you know is behind in their mortgage or in the process of being foreclosed on due to COVID, please keep an eye out on this. This will be basically, it's more of a first come, first serve program, just like the ERAP was. So you do need to make sure that you get your application in once the applications do come out. And we'll be sharing more information on that as it becomes available. Also want to update on the elections efforts, and I will be repeating this at our elections board meeting after our board meeting here as well. But just a few things that we have done to help reach out to the Latino community and share the information that the date on the instructions part in Spanish was incorrect, although the ballot that was sent out bilingual, which goes to the polling places that are considered bilingual under HAVA, the ballot itself had the correct date on it, both in English and in Spanish. So I just want to make that clear. But I did reach out to Mike Toledo at the Hispanic Center, and I do want to thank them for helping get the word out. They have been putting posts on their Facebook page. Mike has been putting posts on his personal Facebook page as well. And the Hispanic Center worked with WXAC, Albright College Radio, to put out a PSA hourly through Election Day, and that is in Spanish. So I want to thank WXAC as well for that. Also reached out to the Governor's Advisory Commission on Latino Affairs and other Latino elected officials, to include Representative Angel Cruz, who's the Latino caucus leader, Democratic Latino caucus leader, to let them know about what happened and what we're going to do to ensure that this does not happen again, and what steps we're taking to let Latino voters know. Also had a show on Rumba, which is 92.3 FM, with DJ Chamo King to talk about elections. Sylvia Gutierrez was on that with me, and I will also have a show this Sunday morning where we talk about the date that it is November the 2nd, not November the 18th. Sylvia Gutierrez also had an interview on Latina FM, which is another Latino radio station, this past week talking about that. We have reached out to La Mega, but we have not heard back from them yet to be able to get some time to spread the message through their station. So I want to thank all the media outlets that have been helpful in getting this information out. I also spoke with Gabrielina from Make the Road last week. They send out a mass text message to the people they have, letting them know of the correct election date. So I want to thank them for that, although it is unfortunate that they are spreading misinformation. So they are helping get the word out, but on the other hand, they continue to spread misinformation about the number stating that 17,000 voters were affected when that is not the reality. The math doesn't just add up. I'm not sure how they came up with 17,000 voters being affected. There were 17,000 forms sent out, instruction forms sent out. That does not mean that 17,000 are affected because the date was incorrect in the Spanish version, not in the English one. But there's nothing we can do to stop that misinformation. So I want to thank the people and the organizations that help spread the word of the correct information and for the work they continue to do to make sure that people are aware, or the Hispanic community, let's put it that way, because that's where it came out incorrect in the Spanish portion of it, that election day is November 2nd. And in the board meeting following this, I will be discussing what I believe needs to get done to ensure it does not happen again. So that's all I have. And Commissioner Barnhart.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnhart.
Thank you. That was a double take there. So first of all, thank you, Commissioner Rivera, for your extra efforts on behalf of election services and your reach out to the Latino community. Certainly it was an error, and certainly positivity in getting the message out and all the right efforts is better than putting misinformation out there. It just confuses people more than it needs to be. So thank you for that. Again, there is an election board meeting at 11 a.m. on Microsoft Teams or in person. Just a few highlights thus far. We are going to be approving the list of folks who work the election: judge of elections, majority and minority inspectors, machine inspectors, clerks, and interpreters. Now keep in mind, this takes about 1,200 people. We're going to be approving 870 appointments. That's literally 73% of the people have to be located, called, and encouraged by election service to work the polls. There was a time, I think, in the not too distant past where we didn't have to have 870 people basically drafted into service. These positions remain unfilled. They continue to drift in the wrong direction. It takes 1,200 people at least to run 202 voting precincts. And the efforts made by election services to find people is just truly heartwarming. Again, things that are being done downstairs that people take for granted. We have 2 ballot drop boxes, and our 8-day total thus far at the Services Center drop box is 366. That's an average of 46 ballots a day. And the Ag Center is 1,133. That's an average of 142 a day. Again, they're still open throughout this week, hours on Saturday, as well as Monday and Tuesday of next week. On the agenda, again, is the appointment of these folks to work the elections, the cost proposal for BCTV to, again, video record the process of the mail-in and absentee ballots. There's a campaign finance discussion, discussion regarding Spanish translation practices, and any other comments election board might want to make. I would have deferred these to our election board meeting, but figure there's more opportunity for public input at this meeting than there would be at election board. Just going back to the commissioner's agenda, I too would like to thank Carl Staples for stepping forward to serve on the RAC Board of Trustees. What a tremendous institution we have here in Reading and Berks County. I too want to thank Inavella Ruiz for stepping forward to join us on the South Central Transit and BARDA boards. A welcome addition. I do want to celebrate the fact that Dennis Rex is leaving. He has moved out of the area. He has served for well over 7 years and was also instrumental in the merger with us with BARDA and Red Rose of Lancaster County. So we bid Dennis a fond farewell and welcome her to the board. Last but not least, I know there was some angst a number of years ago when we implemented the $5 registration fee through the vehicle registration, and people wanted to know where that $5 was going. Item 375.2021 is simply there. That $5 local use fee is helping to structurally replace the View Bridge in Albany Township for $910,000. So people are always questioning where their money goes. So that $5 fee tacked on for your registration by Berks County is going to replace the superstructure and Pinnacle View Bridge in Albany Township. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Barnhart. I also want to thank Commissioner Rivera for his significant outreach to the Latino community, working with our elections department on this serious error on the instructions for the Spanish ballot for the November 2nd election. I also want to highlight, I've received emails, I've seen letters to the editor, and one of the things that surprises me with at least some of those communications, especially the ones that are letters to the editor, they seem more focused on some political gamesmanship than they are on telling people November 2nd is election day. There's two in this morning. One of them makes no mention of the correct date. It tells me that it isn't about getting things right. It's about playing politics. This Board of Commissioners doesn't play politics. I want to just go through what we've done. 1, we did a thorough investigation. 2, we know what happened, why it happened, and it was not a mistake on the ballot, as Commissioner Rivera noted, but has been reported numerous times. It was a mistake on the Spanish instructions for the ballot, impacting approximately 2,800 voters, not 17,000 voters. 3, we have corrective measures that we are working on, and as Commissioner Rivera noted, he has aggressively been working with the elections department, and we'll be talking about some of that, but those will be in place going forward to ensure that this doesn't happen again. 4th, we know who was responsible. In the end, we're responsible, but we know exactly what happened, who was responsible, and that has been addressed. 5, we notified the Pennsylvania Department of State of the incident and sought their advice and input. 6, we decided to send out letters to the 2,800 affected voters, and this is important. There's one way you can guarantee that the voters get the information with the right date, and that is to communicate with them the same way they got the wrong date, and that's the mail. It's good to take every other medium that we can to make people aware. I really appreciate the outreach again that Commissioner Rivera has done, but we made up our mind right away. We are going to send the letters out to the people that are impacted so that they get the right information. Finally, we did not, and there's this claim that we tried to hide this, and this was intentional. We didn't hide. When we were made aware of what was going on, we responded immediately, and we answered the questions, and we continue to, which we should. We're the ones that are responsible at the end of the day for what happens in the county, and we are answering to that. So if you want to help, don't make accusations that this was intentional. That stirs up conflict. And anyone that makes that claim is either completely ignorant of what's taken place or is trying to stir up trouble. And that is not helpful. We all know that we are not in a good political environment and haven't been for some time, that it is very easy to place blame, throw political barbs. We need to deal with facts. We need to deal with truth. And that is what we're dealing with. A mistake was made. The county made the mistake. The county is rectifying the situation and doing things properly. What is most offensive is the implication from the head of the Pennsylvania League of Women Voters in the paper this morning that it's possible this might have been intentional. That is beyond the pale. And an organization that claims to be nonpartisan really should have better standards than to suggest that it is possible that this was intentional. That's all I have to say on that or on anything else. Commissioner Rivera.
Yeah, just a few things. Commissioner Leinbach, you mentioned that the letter with the corrected information was sent out to 2,800 people, is sent out to the full 17,000.
Okay.
So it was sent out to everyone that was
Thank you.
initially sent out the initial information incorrectly.
But the 2,800 are the Spanish.
The 2,800 are electors within the Java polling location. So there's no way to determine who speaks English or who speaks Spanish.
Right.
But 2,800 went out to people who are in bilingual polling places, which it's.
And that's who we would have been required to provide bilingual instructions.
Correct.
We happen to provide it to
everyone.
Everyone that applies for an absentee ballot.
Yeah. Correct.
Thank you for the correction.
Sure. And two other things also want to thank, and I forgot initially, and I do apologize. I want to thank also Angel Figueroa, who did help me connect with Gakla and Representative Cruz. So Angel also played a big part in working this out and helping me share the information with Latino leaders as to what had happened. And also I want to thank Commissioner Barnhart, who sent out a press release making it very clear that this is not a political issue. It's not a party issue. If you see a lot of the comments, it's, well, the Republicans did this. This was something the Republicans did to dissuade Latino voters. I think Commissioner Barnhart, who's the Democrat and also the chair of the election board, made it very, very, very clear that this is not a political issue. It is not something that was drummed up to disenfranchise voters, but it was a mistake that was made, and that's it. Thank you, Commissioner Barnhart.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I will add my kudos as well, Commissioner Barnhart. We worked together, and you stepping out and doing that, I think, was significant, and it said a lot to the community that this is not a partisan board. This is not a partisan issue. It was an honest mistake, and we take responsibility.
I'm always drawn back to our election service employees who work day in and day out, nights, weekends, to make this thing happen, and they don't deserve this kind of treatment. They certainly do not deserve this kind of treatment at all, and it's unfair to them. And I think the naysayers and the people think there's a conspiracy or want an investigation. Maybe we want to thank them for the work they do here for the county.
Very good point. With that, any comments from our row officers? Hearing none. Oh, Sandy Graffias. Go ahead, Sandy.
I just want to tell you that Oliver Arthur, who is our audit manager, and I have gone to multiple trainings for the poll workers and the interpreters and the rovers on the debit cards, so that should go very smoothly this election. And I thank everybody for their attention. They were very good about listening to us as we rambled on about the cards and how to cash them.
Thank you very much. We have no comments in person, so I will turn to Mary Buer for comments online.
John Archer, Spring Township. Having noticed several comments in last week's commissioners meeting concerning election services Spanish ballot version having the incorrect date for precinct voting, I would offer the following thoughts. 1, the fact that there is an error in the date is really a quality problem and is indicative of the overall need for all of our state and government agencies to implement a well-planned quality assurance program that is codified by state law and then effectively implemented in a nonpartisan manner. 2, additionally, Why we even need to have ballots that have been translated in a language other than English baffles me from a citizenship standpoint. In order to be a qualified registered voter, one needs to be a citizen. The requirement for citizenship is that a prospective citizen needs to be able to write, read, and speak English. So why do we then need to have a non-English version of the ballot? 3, it would appear from the comments generated in the October 21, 2021 meeting that the improper date was intentionally created as an act of discrimination. Please note that Election Services has bent over backwards to help registered voters of all origins. God bless them all. David Del Negro, West Reading. I just wanted to drop in and say thank you to commissioners for their response and explanation as to how the transposition of the date on ballots occurred. The Eagle article today is very helpful. I think it is shameful that some would use the word intentional and spread conspiracy theories without first hearing from the department. To err is human, to fix and explain is leadership. And that concludes our comments.
That concludes our comments. I want to recognize one item. I referenced Dr. Terry Griffin, president of the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania, letter to the editor. Let me cite the paragraph that I was referencing. And also note that prior to this letter appearing, Commissioner Barnhart sent a detailed explanation to the local league, Jennifer, I forget her last name, Hanf? So we've already communicated with the local League of Women Voters. This is what I find offensive. This error cannot be forgotten because it affects the rights of citizens. Whether the mistake was intentional or not, we ask for a full investigation to uncover the facts. Such errors should never affect Berks County elections. Again, putting out the possibility that is intentional is just completely inappropriate, especially for an organization like the League of Women Voters. What Jennifer Hanf did locally in reaching out to us to ask was the right thing to do. As far as I know, we've not heard from Dr. Terry Griffin, and our chair of the election board responded to Jennifer Hanf and answered her question. There has been a full investigation. So I just thought, in case some people think I've misrepresented, I wanted to read verbatim what is in the Reading Eagle letter to the editor today. So with that, is there anything else for the good of the order?
Don't forget to vote on Tuesday, November 2nd.
You want to add to that?
There you go.
Just remember to go out and vote on November 2nd.
And as the sign
I'll say it in
says,
Spanish. Acuérdense de salir a votar el martes 2 de noviembre.
There you go.
thank you. And it's there on the screen. So please vote on November or by November the 2nd. Get your ballots in, vote in person. We'll be ready to go.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
The meeting is adjourned.